I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here writing all this down, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with Sarah for about 3 years now. We were supposed to get married in a month. Things seemed perfect, or at least I thought they did. She was beautiful, smart, independent, everything I ever wanted in a woman, or so I believed. We met at work, both of us in marketing. It was one of those relationships that started off quick and intense. We were inseparable, always talking about future plans, planning our wedding, dreaming about kids. Honestly, I was feeling pretty damn lucky. I'd never had a woman like Sarah before. She was confident, fierce even, sometimes bitchy, but hey, that's what I liked about her. She didn't take shit from anyone, especially not from me. At first, everything was normal. We'd have our petty fights, sure, but nothing out of the ordinary. Over the last few weeks, though, I started noticing little things that threw me off. She'd be more secretive with her phone, texting late at night, hiding her screen when I walked into the room. I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was just stressed. Wedding preparations. But then I started catching her in small lies. She'd tell me she was going to the gym but came home smelling like perfume I didn't recognize. She'd leave her phone on silent and sneak around. I even caught her deleting messages once, but when I asked her about it, she snapped back at me, calling me paranoid. That's when the doubt crept in. I tried to ignore it, telling myself maybe I was just overthinking. Then, about 2 weeks ago, I decided to do a little digging. I figured if she's hiding something, I'd find it. One night, I borrowed her phone after she went to bed. Stupid, I know, but I couldn't help myself. I'd never done anything like this before, but I was desperate to know the truth. I was expecting maybe some flirtatious texts from her friends or work emails. Instead, what I found threw me into complete chaos. There were messages from her boss, Ryan. At first, I thought it was just work stuff, but then I started reading. The messages weren't about business. They were about plans, secret plans. A getaway they were planning to take, just the two of them. And the way they talked about feeling free, alive, and finally getting away from all the bullshit. It was obvious this wasn't just professional. I felt my stomach drop. My heart started pounding. My hands trembled as I scrolled through more messages, more than I'd ever imagined. They were talking about sex, about how she felt disconnected from me lately, how Ryan was the only one who really understood her, and how they wanted to disappear together. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I thought I knew her, but this was something entirely different. I sat there for a long time just staring at her phone. My mind was racing. I felt betrayed, humiliated, angry, like I'd been punched in the gut. How could she do this? How could she lie so convincingly that I never suspected a thing? I kept asking myself, did I miss the signs? Was I blind? Or had she just been waiting for the right moment to screw everything up? I didn't sleep that night. I kept looking at her phone, rereading those messages, trying to process what I'd found. The worst part was knowing that she'd been lying to me for months, maybe longer. I kept thinking about the Sarah I loved, the woman who smiled at me every morning, who promised she'd never hurt me. And now I was faced with the brutal truth that she had been hiding this secret affair, and not just any affair, but with her boss during the final weeks before our wedding. That's when the reality hit hard. This wasn't just about a fling or a one-time mistake. It was something much deeper, something I might never forgive. I felt completely lost, like I didn't even know who she was anymore. All those dreams we had, all those promises, shattered in a single moment. I knew I had to confront her the next day, but I also knew that everything was about to change forever. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding and my stomach was in knots. I kept trying to think about how I was going to approach this, what I was going to say, but honestly, nothing prepared me for what I was about to face. Sarah was in the kitchen, humming some stupid pop song, acting like everything was normal. I could see her glance at me out of the corner of her eye, like she sensed I was about to blow. I just stared at her for a second, trying to gauge whether she had any idea I knew. I wanted to scream, but I kept my voice as calm as I could. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked at me with her usual bitchy smirk, the one that used to turn me on but now just made my stomach turn. "Sure, what's up?" she said, leaning against the counter, acting like she didn't have a care in the world. I took a deep breath. I knew I had to be direct no matter how much it hurt. I pulled out her phone and placed it on the table. "I found these messages last night," I said, my voice trembling a little. Her eyes widened for a split second and then she immediately started to lie. "Oh, come on, Mike. You're overreacting. That's just work stuff, nothing serious," she said, shaking her head. But I had the messages right in front of me. I knew better. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "Don't lie to me, Sarah. I saw everything. You're planning a getaway with Ryan, your boss. How long has this been going on?" Her face twisted into a bitchy sneer and she rolled her eyes. "Look, I don't know what you think you saw, but you're making a big deal out of nothing. Ryan's just a friend, okay? We've been talking about ideas for my career, nothing more. You're just paranoid because I've been busy with wedding stuff." I felt my blood boil. I'd already seen enough to know that her excuses were bullshit. I looked at her and said, "Don't lie anymore. I read your messages. You've been sleeping with him, haven't you?" Her smirk widened and she crossed her arms. "Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. What's it to you? You're not the only one who's been feeling trapped lately, Mike. Maybe I needed something more." That was the moment everything changed. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt a mixture of fury, heartbreak, and disbelief. How could she be so callous, so careless? I had been planning to marry her in a month and she was out there screwing her boss. I never thought she'd be the type to cheat, especially not just before our wedding. That made it even worse. I wanted to scream, to shout, to tear her apart, but I held back. Instead, I just looked at her, voice cold and steady. "You lied to me about everything. All those times you said you loved me, all the promises you made, were they just bullshit? Did you think I wouldn't find out?" Her expression didn't change. She just looked at me like I was some obstacle she had to deal with. And that's when I realized she didn't care. Not really. She was a bitchy, manipulative woman who thought she could get away with anything. But I wasn't going to be her fool anymore. I told her I needed space, that I was done talking, and I left the house for a few hours to clear my head. The whole drive was a blur. I kept replaying everything she said, every little lie she spun. I was angry, broken, and hurt all at once. How long had this been going on? Was it just the last few weeks, or had it been going on for months? Did she ever really love me? Or was I just some fool she used to get what she wanted? When I got back to the apartment later that evening, she was still there, acting like nothing happened. She tried to pretend she hadn't just blown up my entire world. She threw out some bullshit about how she was confused, that she didn't mean for it to happen, that it was just sex and she didn't want to ruin everything. But I knew better. I knew she had been lying from the start, just like she always did. The betrayal cut so deep I thought I might never recover. I felt like I didn't even know who she was anymore. That woman I loved, the one who promised to spend her life with me, had turned out to be a stranger. Someone I couldn't trust. Someone who could lie so easily and cheat so blatantly right before our wedding. I sat there that night, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of it all pressing down on me. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. All I could do was wonder what I'd do next. I had to decide whether I wanted to fight for this or just walk away. And honestly, I didn't have the answer yet. But I knew one thing for sure. My life was never going to be the same after this. The days that followed felt like walking through a fog. I kept replaying everything in my head, her lies, the secret messages, the way she looked at me like I was some fool who couldn't see what was right in front of him. Every time I thought I was getting a handle on it, some new detail would hit me like a punch in the gut. Sarah, of course, kept trying to play the victim. She'd come up with excuses, saying she was stressed, she didn't know what she wanted, that she was tempted because she felt trapped. She even had the nerve to cry on my shoulder, acting like she was the one being betrayed. I didn't buy it. I saw right through her manipulations. She was the one who lied, who cheated, who betrayed everything we had built. But here's the thing. I wasn't just angry, I was also hurt. Deep down, I kept asking myself where I went wrong. Was I not enough? Did I miss the signs? Was I so blind that I never saw the girl I loved turn into someone so cold and selfish? That question haunted me. I felt like a fool for trusting her so blindly, for giving her so much of myself, my time, my love, my future, and for her to just throw it all away with some guy she barely even respected. One night, I decided I couldn't just sit around anymore. I needed answers. I needed to confront her again, but this time I was going to be more assertive. I wanted to hear everything, every detail, every lie she told herself to justify what she did. I sat her down in the living room and I looked her straight in the eyes. "Sarah," I said, voice calm but firm, "I need you to tell me everything. How long has this been going on? Did you ever love me? Did you ever think about what this would do to me?" She looked at me, her bitchy smirk back on her face like she enjoyed playing the victim. "Oh, Mike," she said, shrugging her shoulders, "it's not like you're perfect. You've been distant, stressed, busy with the wedding. Maybe I needed someone who actually paid attention to me, someone who understood what I was feeling. Ryan was just there for me when I needed him. It didn't mean anything. It was just sex." That was the moment I realized her excuses were just that, excuses. She was trying to make herself feel better, but I knew the truth. I saw how she looked at Ryan in those messages. I saw how she talked about feeling alive, feeling free, feeling appreciated for the first time in months. And I knew she'd lied about her feelings and her loyalty. I was just a convenience, a backup plan until she found someone else to fill her void. I couldn't believe how calm I'd become. I didn't want her to see how much her betrayal had broken me, so I kept my voice steady. "You think I'm stupid, Sarah. You think I don't see what's really going on here. You're not some innocent victim. You're just a woman who couldn't keep her legs closed, so you decided to cheat on me just before our wedding. That's what this is about, isn't it? You wanted to have your fun before settling down." She looked like she'd been caught. Her eyes flickered with annoyance, maybe a little guilt, but she quickly masked it with her usual bitchy attitude. "Whatever, Mike, you're overreacting. You're just hurt because I don't want to be the perfect little wife for your stupid plans. Maybe I don't want a marriage right now. Maybe I want something more exciting." I felt my blood boil. That's when I realized I couldn't just sit there and take her bullshit anymore. I told her she needed to leave. I told her I wasn't going to be a doormat for her lies and her manipulations. I said I deserved better than a cheating wife who lied to my face and planned to run off with her boss. She left in a huff, throwing her designer purse on the counter and yelling at me that I was overreacting, that I was insecure, that she was done with this stupid relationship. Honestly, I didn't care. I was done listening to her bullshit. I knew she had already checked out long before I ever found those messages. That night, after she stormed out, I sat alone in the silence, feeling emptier than ever. I kept asking myself whether I should fight for her or just cut ties completely. I kept wondering if I was being too emotional, if maybe she was right. Maybe I was imagining things. But deep down, I knew the truth. I'd lost the girl I loved and I'd been betrayed in the worst way. The hardest part was realizing that, no matter what I decided moving forward, things would never be the same. I was already planning my next move, whether to confront her again, to file for divorce, or just to cut her loose entirely. I hadn't made my mind up yet, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her get away with it without consequences. She played her hand, and now I had to figure out what my next move was going to be. The following days were a blur of confusion, anger, and a strange sense of numbness. I threw myself into work, trying to ignore the ache in my chest and the relentless thoughts that kept circling back to her. Sarah, the woman I loved, the woman I thought loved me. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. Messages, her lies, her sneer when she told me she was done with this stupid relationship. It was like a bad movie playing on repeat in my mind. I kept asking myself why she did it. Was I just a placeholder to her? Was I so invisible that she thought she could get away with cheating on me right before we married? I kept going over all the signs I ignored, all the small things I brushed off, the secretive texts, the late nights, her sudden mood swings. Maybe I had been blind, or maybe I just refused to see the truth. Either way, I felt like a fool. One night, I finally reached a point where I couldn't take it anymore. I decided I had to face her again, get some closure, or maybe just to see her face and hear her lie one last time. I knew that confronting her again wasn't going to be easy, especially since she'd already thrown her tantrum and stormed out. But I needed answers, something concrete, something that would help me understand just how deep her betrayal ran. I texted her, short, blunt, to the point. "Can we meet? I need to talk." She responded almost immediately with her typical sassy tone. Fine, but don't expect me to apologize for anything. I showed up at her apartment later that evening, prepared for another showdown. When she opened the door, her bitchy smirk was still there, like she was daring me to say something that would make her feel guilty. Look, Sarah, I started, voice steady but tired. I need to know exactly how long this has been going on. How many times? Was it just Ryan or were there others? Be honest with me. She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms, and leaned against the doorframe. Oh God, Mike, you're so dramatic. It's just sex, okay? I was stressed about the wedding and Ryan. I don't know, he makes me feel alive. I didn't think you'd be so hung up on it. Honestly, I don't even care if you believe me or not. That was the moment I realized her excuses were just that, excuses. She was trying to downplay the whole thing, make me feel like I was overreacting. But I was. I had proof, and I wasn't going to let her brush this off like it was nothing. Sarah. I said, voice low and controlled, don't lie to me. I saw the messages. You're planning a getaway with Ryan. How long has this been going on? Ever since we got engaged, or even before that? Her expression flickered with annoyance, then defiance. It's none of your business. I don't owe you an explanation. I told you it was just sex and I didn't mean to hurt you. I was confused, okay? I didn't think it would turn into something serious. I felt my jaw tight. Confused? Seriously. You were confused about whether to sleep with your boss, or about whether to ruin our wedding. You think I'm stupid, Sarah. I stepped closer, my voice getting angrier. You've been lying to me for months. I trusted you and you threw it all away for some meaningless sex with Ryan. Do you even realize what you've done? She looked at me, her bitchy attitude slipping just a little. Then she scoffed. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Maybe I just wanted to have some fun before the wedding. It's not like I stopped loving you or anything. You're overreacting because you're insecure. That was the last straw. I clenched my fists. Insecure? Is that what you think this is? I'm insecure because my future wife decided to screw her boss behind my back. You're unbelievable. I told her she needed to leave. I couldn't look at her anymore, not like that, not knowing what she'd done. I told her that I deserved better than a cheating, lying wife who thought she could manipulate her way out of this. She argued, called me paranoid, said I was overreacting, but I didn't care. I wanted her gone, out of my life, out of my head. When she finally left that night, I sat alone in the silence again, feeling nothing but emptiness. I kept replaying everything. Part of me wanted to run after her, to call her a liar, to scream at her for the pain she caused. But another part of me knew that chasing her wouldn't fix anything. She was already gone in her own way. That night, I realized I had to make a decision. Do I fight for this? Do I try to salvage what's left of us? Or do I cut my losses and move on? Honestly, I didn't have the answers yet, but I knew one thing. I was done being the fool. I'd been betrayed in the worst way, and I wasn't going to let her ruin me. Not without a fight. The days after she left were the hardest. I was stuck between anger and despair, feeling like I was drowning in a sea of betrayal I couldn't escape from. Every time I tried to focus on work, my mind wandered back to the damn messages, to her face when she lied to me, to the way she looked at Ryan in those texts like he was her salvation. It was a sickening feeling, knowing the woman I loved had been playing me all along, like I was some easy target she could manipulate and discard. I kept asking myself if I should fight for her, demand she tell me everything, try to save what was left of us. But honestly, every piece of my mind was telling me to walk away, completely, utterly. That I deserved better than a woman who could cheat on me right before our wedding, who clearly didn't love me enough to be faithful. I kept telling myself I'd been a fool for trusting her so blindly. One night I decided I needed to hear the truth, really hear it from her. I called her, and after a few rings she answered with that same snarky tone she always used. What now, Mike? You're obsessed. I took a deep breath. I want you to tell me everything, Sarah, every detail. How long you've been doing this, who else you've been with besides Ryan, what you really feel about me. There was silence on the other end, then a sigh. Fine, she said, her voice dripping with annoyance. It's been going on for months. Ryan wasn't the only one, but he's the one I cared about most. I don't love you anymore, Mike. Honestly, I was just waiting for the right moment to tell you and get the hell out of here. You were so busy with the wedding, I figured I'd do what I wanted until it was over. Hearing that, I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. All the hurt, anger and betrayal boiled over in that moment, but I kept my voice steady. You don't love me. You've been screwing your boss and lying to my face. And you think I should just accept that? She tried to laugh it off. Look, Mike, I don't owe you anything anymore. I'm not some perfect wife, and I never was. Maybe you should stop being so insecure and start thinking about what you did wrong, too. That was it. I knew I couldn't keep pretending this was just some temporary mistake. She had already checked out. You could see it in her tone, her attitude, her lies. I told her I wanted her to leave for good, that I was done with her games. She argued, called me a jealous fool, accused me of being insecure, but I didn't care. I knew I had to get her out of my life. The next day I went to her apartment. I packed her things myself, her clothes, her jewelry, whatever she wanted. I didn't want to see her face again. As I was loading the last box into my car, she showed up unexpectedly. Her eyes were angry, her face flushed. You think you're so smart, she spat. You're just a loser who couldn't keep me happy. Ryan's the real man I want, and you're too stupid to see. I looked at her, feeling a strange mixture of relief and bitterness. You're right, I said calmly. Ryan is the real man you want, and I promise I won't be the one left crying over you. I deserve someone who actually loves me, not some woman who sleeps around with her boss and lies to my face. With that, I closed the door behind me and got in my car. I drove away from that nightmare, knowing I'd never look back. It hurt like hell, but I knew I had to let her go. Now I'm in the aftermath, trying to rebuild myself. The trust is gone, the pain lingers, but I'm starting to feel a little stronger every day. I've learned that sometimes love isn't enough. People can surprise you, betray you in ways you never expected. And you have to be willing to walk away, even if it hurts. I won't lie, it still stings. But I'm not going to let her define my future. I've got to focus on myself now, figure out what I want and deserve. And honestly, I think I'm better off without her. If she could do this and lie so easily, then she wasn't worth my pain. So my advice to anyone out there going through something similar: trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs, and don't let anyone treat you like you're not worth respect. Because at the end of the day, you only get one shot at happiness. If someone betrays that, you have to decide whether to fight or to walk away. And in my case, I chose to walk. Now that I've had some time to breathe and get a little distance from everything, I realize just how much this experience has changed me. I used to think trust was everything in a relationship, but betrayal like this proves otherwise. I thought I knew Sarah, but she was just a mask hiding the real person, selfish, manipulative, and completely disconnected from what love really means. Honestly, I feel foolish for ever trusting her that much, but at the same time, I forgive myself. You can't control who someone is deep down, and I guess I was blind to the signs for too long. Losing her hurt like hell, but what hurts more now is knowing I wasted so much time believing in a lie. I keep telling myself that I dodged a bullet. She was never the woman I thought she was. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but I know I'm better off without her. She was just a chapter in my life, one that ended badly, but a chapter nonetheless. I refuse to let her betrayal define me or my future. I've started focusing on myself, getting back into fitness, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected, and doing things that make me happy. It's not easy. Some nights I still feel the sting of her lies, and I wonder if I'll ever fully trust anyone again. But I know that I will. Time heals wounds, and I've learned a lot about what I want and what I won't tolerate from a partner. Looking back, I see all the red flags I ignored, all the times I brushed off my gut feeling because I didn't want to believe she could do something so cruel. I learned that you can't ignore your instincts, no matter how much you love someone. If something feels off, it probably is. Trust is a fragile thing, and once it's broken, it's incredibly hard to repair. But I also learned that you have to be willing to walk away when it's beyond repair. To anyone reading this who might be going through a similar situation, just know you're not alone. It hurts and it feels like your world is ending, but trust me, you will survive. And someday you'll look back and realize that losing someone like her was actually a blessing in disguise. It's better to be alone than to stay with someone who doesn't value you. I'm still healing, still figuring out how to move forward, but I'm done mourning what I lost. Instead, I'm focusing on what's next, building a life where I'm valued, respected, and happy. That's the real lesson I take away from all of this. Love isn't about sacrifice or blind trust. It's about respect, honesty, and mutual care. And if those aren't there, then it's not worth it. So yeah, I'm single now, and honestly, I feel freer than I've felt in years. It's a new beginning, and I'm ready for whatever comes next, better, stronger, and more cautious. Because after everything, I know one thing for sure. I don't need someone who lies and manipulates to feel complete. I just need to be true to myself.